So we've been talking about the changing landscape of the United States, and now we're going to start to get into how we're going to get actually all of this land in here, from California to Texas. So this is all going to go, we're going to go through now the Texas Revolution and the Mexican-American War. So, who originally controlled Mexico and this entire territory? That would be Spain, right? So, in the 1500s, let's go back, stretch our brains all the way back to really sort of the first days of school. In the 1500s, this is when Spain begins to settle North America, and they claim Texas. So they really don't find very much value in the land in Texas. They're not super impressed by it or impressed by the people. So they really don't pay much attention to it. What they end up doing, they don't really settle it. Not really a lot of Spanish people end up living there. What they do with it is they really set it up as a way to prevent the French from claiming the land. They have to do something with it, or someone's going to think that it's also up for grabs. So what they use is called the mission system. So we've mentioned the mission system actually way back in Unit 1 when we were talking about this, but now we'll go into more detail. So the mission system, these are all small settlements. You see them all around Texas. So what it is it's basically a settlement designed to convert Native Americans to Christianity, specifically Catholicism, right? Spain is very, very, very Catholic. So it's these two buildings that are all together. One is a fort, and see, the clear thing is the fort, and then the colored box is the mission. The mission is the church, essentially. So the fort is run by soldiers there, essentially to protect the mission. During the 1600s and 1700s, Spain builds around 25 of these missions. We're going to see some new cities even start to pop up, San Antonio being one of them, and Natchitoches being another. You don't need to write those down, but they should sound familiar. You should have heard of San Antonio before. San Antonio originally started out as a mission. So, unfortunately for Spain, these missions are not going to be very successful. The Native Americans are very resistant to converting to Christianity, and they don't like the Spanish at all. The Spanish do not have a positive relationship with the Native Americans, so they're not going to be very successful. The Spanish exposed the natives to a lot of diseases, and thousands of them die. So the natives see the Spanish as like invaders who bring with them only death, and trespassers. They're dangerous. So eventually, the Native Americans actually start attacking the missions and the forts in these towns. So really, by 1800. Only about 3 of them exist in all of Texas. We went from, 25 to 3 because the Native Americans are so resistant. So in 1820, in exchange for land, Spain starts offering up some opportunities to people to settle Texas. Let's really start to use this land that we have out there. So in 1820, a guy named Moses Austin says, I'll sign up and I'll do this. He says that he will be he'll take this land, and he'll help build a colony. That's essentially the trade, is they'll give him land in exchange for him building a colony. He has to get people to come live on this land and settle it and really make it profitable and use it to its fullest potential. So Spain agrees. Unfortunately, right after he makes this agreement, Moses Austin dies, but his son, Stephen F. Austin, agrees to pick up the agreement and begin to do it himself. Their last name should sound familiar. Austin, Texas is named after them. So Austin's colony he's going to start building in 1823. It's going to be San Felipe de Austin, which will eventually be Austin, Texas. And he has about 1,800 people living there and 400 slaves. Most of them are on farms and ranches. So it's, sort of like a basic standard Southern type of colony. So in 1821, though, Mexico actually gained its independence from Spain. so those contracts that Spain had put out with these people to start colonizing Texas are no longer valid. But the Mexican government, the new Mexican government, is like, this is still something we need to do, though. We still need to figure out what exactly we're going to do with all of this land that we call Texas. So they start hiring people as contractors to recruit settlers and establish colonies, essentially the exact same thing that the Spanish were having Stephen Austin do. So Stephen Austin is like, hey, I'll keep doing this, make me one of those guys. And the Mexican government's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So they make him, they call them an impresario. That's what his job is going to be. These impresarios are essentially contractors who recruit settlers to establish colonies. Impresarios, Empresarios. So Stephen F. Austin is going to be the most successful impresario. By 1830, there are more than a dozen colonies in Texas and over 30,000 settlers. And these 30,000 settlers have thousands of slaves. We're going to have a new category, a new group of people, about 4,000 of which we call Tejanos. Tejanos are Mexicans who are born in Texas. So these are Mexicans from Texas are Tejanos. So, there are several requirements for, coming to live on this land and being part of these new colonies that Mexico puts out. They don't want the United States coming after this land, and they know that's a possibility, especially now we're in the 1820s. The United States is really sort of expanding constantly, and Mexico wants to make sure that their land is safe, especially Texas, since it's so close to the United States. So they start naming off a bunch of rules and regulations that people have to follow in exchange for gaining some of this land. Number one, they had to surrender their American citizenship. So if you come here, you're Texas now, you're Mexican now, you are no longer American. Number two, you have to swear allegiance to Mexico. You have to swear that Mexico is where your loyalty lies. Number three, you have to adopt Roman Catholicism. Everyone in Mexico has been raised to be Catholic for so long. That's something that they really want to continue to push. So you have to be Catholic. And then number four, you have to hold your land for 7 years. When you come here, you have to agree that you're going to have this land for at least 7 years. You can't just have it for a little while and then dump it and leave. If you're going to be here, you got to, build a home on it. You have to farm it. You have to use it to its full potential for at least 7 years. In reality, it was a very different situation. Settlers were bringing in slaves into Texas, even though slavery was illegal in Mexico. And slavery had just been banned pretty recently from Great Britain and a lot of Western Europe. But when they banned slavery, when they abolished slavery, they felt very passionate about it. And so Mexico felt very passionate about having no slaves. So it was very illegal, to be bringing slaves. Obviously, all these people who were coming to live in Texas, even though they may or may not have surrendered their American citizenship like they were supposed to and declare allegiance to Mexico, who were they really going to be loyal to still? The United States. You don't just consider yourself the member of a new country overnight. So their loyalty was still to us. But they had very few interactions with the Mexican government. The Mexican government wasn't really paying attention to what was going on in Texas. They just expected everyone to do and follow all of these rules that they had laid out, and that wasn't happening, but they really didn't even know. So in 1827, they send this guy, Manuel de Mier y Terán, or Tehran, I guess. They send this guy into Texas to basically check it out, see what's going on. Are they doing what we want them to do or not? And he writes back, heck no, they are not doing anything close to what we are wanting them to do. It is absolutely not at all the rules that we've laid out here and the way that we expect people to be behaving in Mexican territory. And what he says actually is Texas could throw the whole nation into revolution if people continue to rebel and break our laws so openly and blatantly in Texas. This could cause the entire country to, eventually fall into a revolution. So Mexico is like, oh my God, we have to do something about this immediately. We want to decrease the amount of American influence in the Texas region immediately. So in 1830, they cancel just about all the impresario contracts that they've put out, and they start discouraging trade between Texas and the United States. So they're like, all right, that's enough. We got enough Americans living here. No one else is necessary. They actually place a really high tariff on American imports is number one. That's one way to discourage trade, right? So now it's very expensive to buy things from the United States. Number two, they ban the importation of slaves into Texas. Now, slavery was already illegal in Mexico, but passing this law is going to make it more difficult for people to get slaves into Mexico and into Texas from the United States. And then number three, they send troops to Texas to monitor and enforce this ban on immigration from the United States, and to make sure that they're collecting all of these taxes and off of the tariffs that we've placed on things coming from the United States, or that Mexico has placed on things coming from the United States. So Mexico has their eye on the United States. They're pretty worried about what's going on. They know that there are a lot of Americans living in Texas, and this is sort of exactly what we're doing in Oregon, right? We're sending a lot of people to Oregon to live, knowing that eventually we're just going to annex it and make it part of the United States. And Mexico knows that that's essentially what our plan is to do here with Texas now. They think that the United States is going to try and annex Texas. So we've got a lot of tensions between the United States and Mexico at this point. Now, the United States doesn't have a formal plan to do this. The government is not actually, up in Washington working on how are we going to annex Texas, but that's what Mexico has in their minds. So in 1827, this guy, who's an American, he is not sent by the American government. He's just an American guy, Joel Poinsett. He goes to Texas, he goes to Mexico, and he offers them $1 million to buy the majority of Texas. And Mexico freaks out and is like, oh my God, we knew it. We knew that you were trying to steal Texas away from us. This guy proves it by offering to buy it. And Joel Poinsett's like, no, I'm doing this privately. I'm not representing the American government here at all. I'm just doing this on my own. And Mexico's like, no, not at all. We don't believe you. You're trying to annex Texas, and we absolutely knew it. So all of Mexico's fears are confirmed, and they are more worried than ever about what exactly is going on between us and them.